Ed Orgeron visited with Off the Bench, as he does every Tuesday. And as they've been doing throughout this offseason, they've kind of gone position group by position group and let Ed Orgeron discuss it. And today they discussed quarterbacks and special teams. We'll get to that in a second. But the thing that, for me, that was probably the most important that Ed said today was when he talked about, when he offered up this after the guys asked how the first week of practices went, and Ed offered this up.
I show up Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. I look outside our window. Our whole team had volunteered to work out. So a great atmosphere, great first week of work.
So they didn't ask a follow-up, and he didn't clarify, but I think the assumption to be made there is when he looks out his window and the team volunteered to work out, he's talking about on field. And this is something that, if you remember, happened last year. And Ed talked about it a lot during the offseason and throughout the season. Joe Burrow mentioned it as well. This, by the way, was Ed Orgeron last year at SEC Media Days when he was asked about Burrow's leadership, and he mentioned it.
He's been with his teammates. He throws on their own. They practice on their own. He sees them work. He knows them. He knows his teammates in and out. He knows the offensive line.
Throws on their own, practices on their own. Ed mentioned many times last year during the summer leading up to the season how Burrow was organizing player-led workouts. And now the guys were out working out on their own. Well, clearly that's carried over. And one of the biggest questions that you have when you lose a team and a leader like LSU just did, when you lose Joe Burrow and you lose Justin Jefferson and you lose Rashard Lawrence and Lloyd Cushenberry and all these great, and Caleb Von Chasson, you lose all these great players and great leaders as well. Grant Delpit, Christian Fulton, all those guys all of a sudden in one fell swoop are out of the program. There's a very obvious question as to whether or not it's going to carry over. There's a very obvious question if the next wave that comes through is going to be able to pick them up and sort of pick up where that team left off. So this is a very good sign that you've got Myles Brennan and you've got players out there. And one of the things that Joe Burrow talked about last year was they had perfect attendance on those Saturday practices. Everybody showed up. And clearly that's something that's carried over, at least as of right now, which is a very good sign for this team moving forward. Now, the other thing that obviously points to is none of the players are worried about COVID. And I understand that LSU has to take the precautions that it does when you're going to be under, the supervision in the facility for the voluntary workouts with the strength and conditioning staff, and they're only allowing 20 people in the building at a time and so on. But if you have your whole roster practicing on Saturday, that ain't 20 people at a time, Hoss. So, and by the way, I'm perfectly fine with it. I mean, if every player is tested and they all test negative, okay, go out there and practice, throw the football. As I'll continue to maintain, I would much rather have them doing those things on campus where they can be monitored and there's resources available to them than doing it on their own at home, wherever they might be. So that's really a fantastic sign of the leadership on this team carrying over, that they have player-led workouts. The other thing, as Ed started talking about the quarterbacks, is what they've been doing during the shutdown with Steve Ensminger.
They've done a great job. Coach Ensminger has done a tremendous job of Zoom meetings, installation. Every time I walk into Coach Ensminger's office at 8 o'clock in the morning, he had all three scholarship quarterbacks there studying on the Zoom meetings. Those guys have been very attentive. I've asked Coach Ensminger how they're doing. They're picking up the offense very well. All three of them, Myles, TJ, and Max, three outstanding quarterbacks. It's going to be fun to see them in camp.
It's obviously notable that he mentioned three outstanding quarterbacks, Myles, TJ, Max, and did not mention Peter Parrish. It's worth noting that Peter Parrish is still on the roster. He is suspended indefinitely, but there's no mention there, which kind of tells you what you need to know about it. We all know that this is going to be Myles Brennan's team, and Ed Orgeron gave a thought about Myles Brennan now ready to take over the reins.
We recruited Myles. He had a strong arm. He came here. He's developed, and again, I've said this many times. In the new world of transfer portals, most quarterbacks have transferred. Myles and his family stuck behind us. We have stuck behind him. Now it's his turn, and we feel that he's got all the makings of an outstanding quarterback.
Myles Brennan is going to get his shot after waiting his turn. Again, it is atypical to see guys wait their turn like Myles Brennan has, but he's waited. You heard Ed Orgeron say there that they've spent all their times with Steve Ensminger on Zoom meetings, working the offense, getting acclimated to this offense, so when they hit the field, they're ready to roll. But it's not just Brennan, it's the freshmen as well with TJ Finley and Max Johnson. Here's what Ed Orgeron said about the young guys.
Max Johnson and TJ Finley, both of those guys were mid-year graduates. Both of them are big, strong, smart, athletic quarterbacks. We're excited about them. Both of them had excellent springs. Both of them are learning. Both of them know the offense. We feel like both of them are going to be fantastic football players.
We all know that it's Myles Brennan's team. The biggest question, the single biggest question in that quarterback room is who's going to be the backup. Peter Parrish suspended indefinitely. Ed Orgeron made no mention of him. It's Myles, and then it's the two freshmen with Johnson and Finley. My guess is that it's going to be Max Johnson. Ear to ground, you ask people around that program. They are very excited about his potential and what the future holds for Max Johnson. But Johnson and Finley are going to go have to battle that out, because if there's an inevitability of Brennan missing any time, or if there's an opportunity late in a game to get a quarterback in the game, who is that going to be? Is it going to be Johnson or Finley? That's what they'll hash out over whatever length of fall camp that they have. If it's that acclimation period into a traditional fall camp, if it's an extended camp, whatever. But that's what we'll start to get answers to as we move through fall camp. And one more, while they couldn't ask Ed specifically about individual recruits, Ed can't talk specifically about recruits until they're signed. We've had a lot of conversations of late about the state of the quarterback position in Louisiana, with Walker Howard coming, and then, of course, Arch Manning behind him, and then Eli Holstein and guys like Jai Eugene Jr., and you can just look around the state and see how many really good quarterbacks are sort of in the queue. And Ed Orgeron talked about that and how important that is for his program.
These players that are growing up in the state of Louisiana and around the country have seen this championship football team. So obviously they want to be like it. And they've seen the success that we've had with Joe Burrow, winning the Heisman, being the first player pick. So we don't have to go into these homes and sell something that these young men have not seen. So, yes, it gives us a big-time advantage. We feel good about the quarterback position. And obviously, we know that when I took over, that's a position that had to make improvement, and so far it has.
It's why Joe Burrow is the most influential recruit in LSU history. Listen, the fact that Louisiana is producing elite quarterbacks is incredible, and that's a huge boost for LSU. But you heard Ed say it. They're not selling a dream anymore. They're not selling a vision. They're selling reality. They can walk blue-chip quarterbacks into the football ops building and show them Joe Burrow's Heisman. They can show them the national championship trophy. They can show them that he was the number one overall pick. You're not selling a, hey, come here and be that guy for us. It's the recruiting advantage Lincoln Riley's had. Hey, come here. Look, Baker Mayfield became a Heisman winner. Kyler Murray became a Heisman winner, number one overall pick. Jalen Hurts was a Heisman finalist and became a high NFL draft pick. Like, he's not selling a dream. He's selling their reality. Plug and play. Well, Ed Orgeron can do that now as well. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.